I mean, my husband was born in Washington, D.C., and you've probably heard many athletes speak who run track, and particularly black guys, and they'll say, well, you know, how do you run so fast? And they'll respond by saying, well, I've had to run from police all my life, and that's the truth. You get caught and the attendance go up, whether you are guilty or not. You could be totally innocent, but it's that fear that they instill in you. And if we don't do something about it, it's only going to get worse. And it's really just a very simple solution. It's respect for all people. All people. Thank you.
Okay, there's a couple of questions. Go ahead.
Firstly, I enjoyed your speech, and I must say that you don't need to apologize for the inconvenience on a weekend, because I'm sure the Native people have been inconvenienced for their lifetime, perhaps for generations, and historically for centuries. So please refrain from apologizing for anything. My question is really, what are the charges, if there are any charges against Shawn, and where do they stand as it stands? I mean, I basically like to know, what are we fighting here? Thank you.
I have a question that...
you look so smart with your glasses.
Thank you. I don't really need them. They just make me a bit more distinguished. But in any event, the question that I have is primarily for Sue. It flows out of what she said about the days of action, because I do think it's fair comment that it's not that trade union leaders shouldn't make more such statements and act upon them. They certainly should, but there is a very clear double standard at work here. So my question is where are precisely those voices at the moment that need to be raised? Because I think it's something that this meeting should pay quite a bit of attention to, because it's a very important question. Don't these people have a sense that what is raised here is an attack on the very right of First Nations people to stand up with dignity and demand what's theirs? They're very good at speaking about social justice in general, and I think they now need to speak very loud. And there's something else that I think needs to be considered, and that is that we want to get Shawn Brant out of jail, and it's a winnable fight, but it's something bigger than that, even than that. And that is that if they go ahead with this, and I'm putting this question perhaps to these Labour leaders, but if they go ahead with this and get away with it, don't we consider that they're going to take heart from that? Aren't they going to say, here was an effective, important leader that emerged in a community, spokesperson that emerged in a community, we put him away and we were able to get away with it? It's something that they take heart from. So from the standpoint of basic dignity, from the standpoint of respect for First Nations people, but from the standpoint of our very ability to build a movement in this country and fight, isn't it a vital question to support Shawn Brant? And flowing from that, my supplemental question would be, shouldn't we in that situation be prepared to actually call these people? Shouldn't we be prepared to actually shame them? Shouldn't we be prepared to demand of them that they stand up? Shouldn't trade unionists go to their organisations and demand that they pass resolutions, that they take stands, that at their conventions they pledge themselves to be part of this campaign? What about the churches? I think they have perhaps a few wrongs to right, perhaps some things to do in this regard. Where are the church leaders calling for Shawn Brant's? There's a lot of people in this country who are very good talking about social justice as long as it's clean and nice and there's no unmessy issues that they have to look at and deal with. I'm afraid you're going to have to deal with this one, folks, because the time has come to take a stand for Shawn Brant. It's great that this room is full, but there's a lot of missing voices, and those voices have got to be prodded and shamed into speaking up now.
Hi, my name is Rafif. For those who don't know me, I'm a refugee from occupied Palestine, and just wanted to tell people who, if they think this campaign is going to be hard for us over here, just good news from Palestine, and that never ever happens. As we are talking today, the 11,000 Palestinian political prisoners are writing a letter of support for Shawn Brant to get him released from jail.
Just on the charges, essentially it's called mischief, and that sort of sounds pretty petty, doesn't it? But it's not. It's the unlawful interference with property, and it's divided into private property and public property. And it's a very serious offense which would carry a jail term in all likelihood if there was a conviction. Certainly the Crown, if there is a conviction, has indicated that they would be asking for a penitentiary term, which means a term in excess of 2 years. So it's called mischief. It has to do with the train and the two highways, basically, both in April and in June, and there are a number of charges for it.
Let me say, John, that was a very cleverly worded statement. But in a way, yes, and that is a rhetorical question. But in another way, no, it's not. There really have been voices who have been missing, and I was in Toronto in 2000, 2001, when a lot of people in this room were facing various charges and had been denied bail at different times. And, there was considerably more people coming forward in their defense. And I put considerable thought to that. I don't know if in part, there's a geographical divide, but I do think it has much more to do with what I said earlier, a trepidation to getting involved in First Nations issues. That somehow, this is outside of the realm that I can speak on, and that is bogus. And Shawn, there's been consistently attempts in the media to cause, raise, exploit division within First Nations communities, within the different organizations that represent First Nations people, within people who take more of a direct stand, like those at the quarry. And he was always very clear and said, we may have different approaches or different ways of going about it, but there's no one that is going to say, we don't need these issues addressed, or, we shouldn't have 300 communities drinking polluted water. And really, people can take this the same way. Obviously, I wholeheartedly support my husband, and a lot of people should and do. But I think beyond that, you have to support the very basic issues and the context that were being raised and that continue to be raised around addressing these long-standing injustices from whatever, be it labor, be it a church congregation, from whatever sector one might represent. I have no doubt that if one wanted to, one could find a way to support Shawn. And I guess really, and I'm sure John is very well aware of this when he poses the question, it goes back to everyone in the room tonight. Because that's large, a large chunk of the work that I know the Tyendinaga Support Committee sees before it.